Yo, 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 ladies and gentlemen, I am caffeinated to the gills. I am back on tour and everything is right with the world. It is Thursday, May 29th. My name is Corey Evans and I am not a rock star. My name is Corey Evans and I am not a rock star. I am a caffeine junkie, licensed minivan operator, touring musician, and a proud American. Ride with me as I tour the greatest country on earth and talk to the real rock stars, our local legends, small town heroes, and those who bravely serve our country. And even though I'm not a rock star, I do live a pretty rock and roll life. This is it. This is America. This is the Not a Rockstar Podcast. All right, guys, well, we are back. Season 2 of Not a Rockstar with Corey Evans starts now, and I have officially been on tour for a week at this point. So you guys are going to be riding along with me throughout this entire tour. I'm going to be keeping you updated on where I'm playing, and it's going to be awesome as my van is telling me I need maintenance soon. Not really sure what that's about. So maybe not everything is right in the world. Actually, we all know a lot of things are not right in the world, but I am in a tremendous mood because I am back out on tour and I love to see all of you. I love to play shows. I love to tour the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. And I love filming this podcast. So I'm very happy to be back with you guys. Let's quickly talk about Season 2, what's going to be different? Well, first of all, the scope of the podcast is going to be bigger. In Season 1, most of my guests were from Illitucky. They were from, Metropolis, Brookport, Illinois, Paducah, Lonoke, Reedland, Kentucky, Livingston County, Kentucky, which is Illitucky, basically where Illinois and Kentucky meet, which is where I'm from. So that makes sense that a lot of the people I brought on were from my home area. We had Parker Windhorse, who's the principal of one of the local high schools, Massac County, where I went to school. We had the mayor of Paducah on, Mr. George Bray. And I think in total, we only had 3 guests that were not from Illitucky. We had 3 guests that were from the Marion, Heron, Carterville, Illinois area. Well, this season, we're going to try to film these episodes all over the regions that I tour in. And in fact, we already have guests lined up that are not necessarily from our home area. We are going to do a podcast with my cousin who lives in Huntsville, Alabama. And so while I am in Huntsville, I will have a great discussion with him. We're going to have my friend Brittany Phillips on, who is from kind of south central Illinois. She lives about 2.5, 3 hours north of where I live. And she's going to be talking about developmental therapy. She's going to be talking about her time teaching in public school, working with children who have special needs. And so we're going to try to get more guests from farther away from home, but we're still going to be featuring the true rock stars from my home area as well. Also, this season's going to be longer. I believe season 1 had 16 episodes. This season's going to go longer because it's going to run through the entirety of my tour. And my tour will not officially end until some point in December. So, bigger, badder, better, stronger, faster. Season 2 of Not a Rockstar. We're very excited to be back with you guys. Now, let me tell you where I'm going to be this weekend. Tonight, Thursday, May 29th, I will be in Edwardsville, Illinois, my home away from home. I'll be playing at Big Daddy's, which is kind of my home venue in the St. Louis area. I love Big Daddy's. It's always a great time. I'm going to be there tonight from 6 to 10. All right. I have private parties the next 2 days, and then I will be back in public action on Sunday, June 1st. I will be at Backroads Bar in Buckner, Illinois, from 3 to 6. Now, let me give you a real quick recap of last weekend. The tour officially started on the 23rd. I actually closed on my condo on Thursday the 22nd. I've had a crazy last few months. I'm obviously still working on my album, if anyone's been paying attention to my social media. But that album has taken on a life of its own. It has become this crazy project that is the hardest thing I've ever tried in my life. And that is not an exaggeration. Both the subject matter and all the things I've had to educate myself on, and just the amount of time I've had to spend editing, because there are sections of the album that feature hundreds of news clips where you're hearing audio from all these different news clips, and I've had to sit and edit all that. So I've had that going on. That's been nuts. But yeah, kind of right in the middle of me trying to do all of that and still playing shows on weekends, my landlord hit me with the, hey, we're selling your condo. So if you want to buy it, cool. But if not, they weren't mean about it, but they were like, yeah, you're going to have to find something else, and we'll help you, but you're going to have to find something else. So I've been dealing with all of that, and we closed on my condo on Thursday morning, the 22nd, and then I had to immediately leave on Friday morning, and I played in Huntsville, Alabama Friday, basically drove down there, set up, got ready for the show, played for 4 hours, woke up at 5:30 the next morning, and filmed a podcast with my cousin that I just talked about. And then I had to drive 5 hours and back north, and I played in Lake of Egypt, Illinois on Saturday for a private event. I played in Herrin, Illinois on Sunday for a private event. And then I played halfway up the state of Illinois on Memorial Day in Pasodum, and that was a public show. And all of the shows went amazing. So I want to thank you guys for coming out. We did have a little smaller of a crowd on Friday night in Huntsville because it was a holiday weekend, but a lot of the regulars did come out, and we had a tremendous time. Had a great time filming a podcast with my cousin. And then Lake of Egypt was popping on Saturday. It was popping. So I appreciate everyone that came, that stopped. A lot of people were just kind of out on the lake Memorial Day weekend, and they just pulled off and came and hung out with the folks who were throwing the party. But it was even better than I could have imagined, and that was true really of most of the weekend. I had a great time in Herrin. I have friends that I've made there that hire me every year for their big thing they do during Herrin Fest. So instead of going to Herrin Fest, they throw their own shindig at their house, and it's awesome. I look forward to it every year. They have decided to just call it Evitts Fest, so little job security for me. Sounds like I'm going to be back. And then Monday was insane. I played at Route 45 Wayside up around Champaign, Pasodum, Illinois. That's probably 20-something miles from Champaign, 30 miles maybe. And I have a lot of good friends that I've made up that way, because when I was on tour in 2019, I played in that area every Monday night for like 19 straight weeks. So I've made great friends with these folks. They haven't seen me since probably Labor Day. And it was the biggest crowd I've ever had at that venue. And it was amazing. And I didn't want to have to quit, but I ended up needing to stop when we originally agreed, because I filmed another podcast while I was up there. And then I got home Monday night pretty late, and I've spent the last 2 days recording and doing other business stuff. And so, but I'm back at it on the road tonight. So that's kind of the recap. I appreciate everybody for coming out to those shows. It was awesome. And then I'm ready to get back at it tonight at Big Daddy's. All right, today's guest is Daniel Neihoff. Now, I wanted him to be my first official guest of season 2 because I love Daniel. He is one of the best people I've ever met in my life. We're good friends. We have worked together. We've lived in the same apartment complex. He was literally right above me for a while. And then Daniel tours. Daniel tours the country. I kind of tour one section of the country, northern Alabama through the middle of Illinois. And I am trying to spread out on this tour and get up to the north. I'm trying to go to Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Chicago area, and I'm trying to get to Texas. And so we're still working all of that out. But Daniel will just up and go to California. Daniel will go to Boston, Massachusetts. You know, he's all over the place. So I kind of took the route of playing a ton of shows and doing that in one region in the country. And Daniel doesn't play quite as many shows, but he's traveling way farther than I do. And so, but we do have the touring thing in common, and we bond there. And I really respect basically everything about Daniel. You know, I respect the kind of man he is. He's a great friend. I know his wife, Lauren. She is a wonderful person. But Daniel is one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's one of the most talented people, but yes, one of the best people. He's a man of integrity. And so I am excited to introduce him to you guys today. And also, make sure you stick around to after our discussion, because he is going to be kind of talking a little bit about his EP today. At least I'm going to hopefully get him to talk about it. But we're going to play a track off of his 2019 EP, Appalachian Cry. We're going to play a song called Civil War Letters. So make sure you listen to this conversation. Make sure you check out all of Daniel's socials and stick around to the end of the discussion so you can hear his song, Civil War Letters. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Daniel Neihoff. So what have you been listening to lately?
Well, I've been trying to work on an acoustic album, and so I have created like a acoustic album reference playlist that has a lot of like Jason Isbell, Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, all of that type of stuff, Drayton Farley, Charles Wesley Godwin. Just trying to get inside that mind space, because production doesn't come easy to me, so I gotta like study it to the nth degree in order to figure out how to accomplish what I have in my head and how to really craft it.
That is super interesting to me, because I do the exact same thing. And I think of it like I want this snare drum sound that's on these like 2 songs. I like this keyboard tone. And then I try to research it, like what did they use? And I think I'd mentioned to you off camera that what I'm currently working on has a bunch of synthesizers, and I knew nothing about synthesizers. So like my knowledge of synths has like tripled, but doing the exact same thing. Like how in the world did they get that sound on? Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different facets of it. And I mean, you know, like I know you've got a lot of rooted knowledge inside of Pro Tools and all of that. And so for me too, I'm coming in like YouTube and everything and trying to use mostly Logic for all of that, because that's what I'm more familiar with, being kind of Mac based. But yeah, not to get too much into like all the the minutia of the software and stuff, but like I've really enjoyed it. But it's also like the most infuriating thing in the world, you know, because it's like I'm trying to teach myself to read, and trying to teach yourself to read is nearly impossible, because you have to have somebody to like give you some sort of frame of reference of what these symbols even mean.
No, that's a good point. If you don't know how to read, you can't read the literature teaching you how to read.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, No, yeah, that makes complete sense. The thing with Pro Tools, so for those of you that aren't musicians, we're talking about recording software. I use Pro Tools because that's what I started learning it when I was like 19 kind of thing. And for years, Pro Tools was the, quote, industry standard. Now, maybe not so much. Like Logic has gotten really good. It's another thing. I think Billie Eilish and her brother used Logic to record that album that won all those Grammys. And like they did it in their bedroom, you
right,
know?
Yeah. With like a blanket over their head for a vocal booth.
Yeah, literally.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah. And they even chose, I think, like the room in the house they were going to use because they liked the natural light that came in the window and still achieved that sound. So that's what's possible. But you can speak to this with Logic, but Pro Tools is not user friendly. Like once you figure out what's going on, it's extremely quick, but it takes forever, because nothing on it is intuitive. None of the buttons are labeled to where you're like, oh, that's what this means. It'll be like a triangle and 2 dots. And you're like, what? And that'll be like, you know, you can
splice something.
Yeah,
you can
Instead of showing like two tape decks going into each other, which would make sense, it's like a triangle and two dots. This is 3 lines in a circle, you know. So like that's what takes forever unless you have somebody like standing over your shoulder. Then you have to YouTube everything.
Yeah, well, and that is kind of the advantage of Logic, is it is a little more intuitive, and they even have like the beginner like setting version to where like you can have it set to that, and it eliminates a ton of the options. So like if you can learn it and learn how to use the full version, it's way better. But if you're like used to GarageBand or something like that, and you want to just be able to throw stuff down, and you're not worried about, you know, plugins, you're not worried about, you know, splicing a bunch of stuff, you're just gonna like do a take and then drop it in, like then you can do it very, very easily. And setting your tempo and all that, like you've got built-in tap tempo and everything. You can actually have it map the tempo of whatever you just recorded. Wow. It's really, really user-friendly in that regard, if you want to use it that way. But yeah, it's also like you can go as deep as you want down the rabbit hole, basically. Whereas, like you said, with Pro Tools, it's like your base knowledge has to be to a certain level to even make it usable. Like, otherwise, you can't even get a basic track down, I feel like.
Yeah, and I have a love-hate relationship with all of it. I will say, like, what I'm currently working on is the hardest thing I've ever attempted in my life. Harder than playing a whole bunch of shows, harder than playing a 12-hour show, harder than teaching children, like, but I will say I've gotten to more of the love side with it now. And I also think they've gotten better with preventing crashes, because when I first started with it, it would just randomly crash, and if you didn't save after everything you did, you would lose stuff. And I don't feel like that's a problem. Like, does that happen with you on Logic? Do you like randomly have crashes in the middle of takes or anything?
It would happen on occasion, but it's pretty stable. The thing that would sometimes like make it crash, like if you're recording multiple tracks at once, or if you're you know, you're playing like multiple tracks while you're multi-tracking over it or something like that, like it just gets overwhelmed sometimes. But they've really, like, it's probably the same, you know. It used to be a little bit worse, but it's gotten to where it's almost bulletproof. Like it hardly ever crashes now.
I need to, like, I kind of want to get into Logic a little bit, and there's just different, like, Cubase used to be a thing, but there's different things people are using.
Yeah, I mean, now there's Reaper, there's FL Studio. That's right. There's so many, and, like, the thing is like, all of them are good. It's almost just, like, pick your flavor. Like, what do you want to focus on? Like, even, what was the one that used to be, like, mostly for tracks?
I think the Ableton?
Ableton, yeah. Like, even Ableton. Like, you can actually use Ableton to record. Like, I mean, it's almost just, like, specific to what you're trying to accomplish, you know? Like, if you're just wanting, like, acoustic and wanting something that you can just play into and capture what you're doing, almost any of them will work. And if you're wanting to stack tracks and do a lot of editing, then probably like Pro Tools and Logic are going to be some of your best bets. But if you're wanting more on the like MIDI side, like Ableton, and it seems like FL Studio's probably a little better for that too. You know, there's just so many. Like, there's just so many different flavors.
Yeah, and I'll clear something up for people too, because like with my live show, because I think people sometimes think that I'm using pre-recorded tracks. I'm not. I'm actually playing all the stuff, but I'm using Ableton. So like, Ableton is a software that was kind of, from my understanding, originally designed for DJs, because you can create as you go and it will loop different sounds. And it's basically made, like, think of an old time DJ with different turntables, and they got this record going, they're making weird sounds over here, and they've got this looping. Ableton was designed to do that on a laptop. But you can also trigger things in Ableton. So like for me, I've got a kick drum that sounds like a kick drum, but I've got a snare drum pedal, and then I've got a tambourine, and I'm doing those with my feet, but I'm running those through like a triggered device that's hooked into my laptop. So if I'm going to play like a rock song, I've got everything wired to this synthesizer that's on top of my rack, and I just reach up and push a few buttons, and I can change the sound of my drums on the fly, and I can keep changing what the drums sound like in between songs. So even though, yes, I'm actually hitting a pedal that's making that sound, if I play a rock song, I want rock sounding drums. If I play a hip hop song, I want like a 808 kick drum, or like, so I'm able to do all of that, ironically, with Ableton. But Ableton is more of like live application. But like you said, now all of this stuff, you can basically be in your bedroom if you know what you're doing and use any of these programs and produce like a really good professional sound if you're patient enough. That's the thing. It takes tons of time and patience. All right, let's just come in hot. This is season 2, our first episode. So you're my first guest. So congrats on that. And I wanted to have you on for a lot of reasons. One, you're a good friend to me. You're one of the best people I've ever met. You're one of the smartest people I've ever met. You're one of the most talented people I've ever met. So I'm thrilled that you're just on. But I wanted to have you on to talk about touring life, because you tour for huge chunks of the year. You're gone a lot. You're all over the country. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions to, quote, come in hot today, okay? So the first one is one I've asked all the other musicians. What is the most annoying thing, either the most annoying occurrence you've had to deal with, like one story of somebody who came up, poured beer on you or whatever, or is there like a recurring thing where you're like, God, every time I show up at these places, they don't even move the pool table. Like, is there something like that for you is the most annoying part of your job?
Well, I would say, like, not necessarily during the show, but like the most annoying part of being a touring musician, I think, and most touring musicians probably agree, is actually booking shows. Like, I think that all of us who have ever had to book a tour will probably testify to the fact that it is infuriating and demoralizing, because you send out 100 emails, you make phone calls trying to get people to respond, and if you get like 100 emails out and you get 5 responses, that's decent. Like, sometimes that's a pretty good response rate. So I'd say, like, just in the touring musician side of things in general, that's probably the most infuriating thing. But for like personal occurrences, like probably the things that have occurred for me that have driven me the most crazy is whenever I've been heckled, like, and I've been like just straight up heckled, and that, like, I can usually handle it pretty well, because like I don't have a problem with like just kind of being a little bit of a jerk from the stage if I have to, like, I'm usually a very nice guy, but whenever somebody just keeps on going, like, I've got a song called Richard about a guy named Chris, and I'll usually be like, this one's for you, buddy, and you can probably imagine where that song goes, like, and usually, like, whenever somebody is called out and they're shamed for, being a jerk, usually they stop, but that's probably one of the biggest, that, and when people ask if they can come up and sing a song.
Oh, God. I can't stand that.
Yeah, that, like, and sometimes it's fine depending on the setting, but, like, if I'm playing, like, a private party and it's maybe 15, 20 people or something like that, that's one thing. But when you're playing at a bar or a brewery and you got, 70 people inside of the place, somebody comes up and asks if they want to sing a song, like, that opens the door for every other person inside that bar to then say, oh, he's letting people up to sing. So I always have to be like, I'm sorry, I can't do that, and so, like, the setting really dictates how annoying that can be. But the best practice is just, like, don't ask whoever's on stage if you can come up and sing a song with them unless you personally know them and know that they would be okay with it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I struggle with a lot of folks, like, and we've talked about this off camera. This is genuine. We both are very grateful for our lives. Like, we love what we do. We love people. Daniel was literally just telling me that a few hours ago, but I know him well enough. I know that's how Daniel is. And I hope I'm like that too. But bro, like, I have been fascinated by the people watching because I'm like, did these people not have moms? Like, were they not parented? Because I was always taught, like, don't take something that doesn't belong to you. Knock before you go in a door. Earn things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm fascinated by it. And I always give this example. You know how many times I've been to a Subway? I could make all the sandwiches. Like, I know how to do it, and I could probably do it better than 3/4 of the people working there. And I've never been in prison, so I'm probably more qualified than half of the staff. I have never once went to a Subway and been like, hey, dude, can I make my own sandwich? Because it's not my job, and it's not my place.
Right.
Like, it's not appropriate. So if you want to get up and sing, and like you were saying, I feel the same way. Like, you get hired to play a party. Well, it's their party.
Right.
And when I get hired to play a wedding, for instance, I got one coming up this weekend. I told the bride, hey, you're the boss. You tell me to try to stand on my head, I'm going to do it. It's your wedding.
Right.
If she wants to come up and sing, if her husband wants to come up, if one of their friends that they said, well, it's their wedding, that's a little different.
Yeah.
But when you're playing in a public forum, and you're supposed to just be entertaining all the people there, yeah, not only does it open up, like everyone else is going to see it, oh, this is karaoke, I guess, but it interrupts everything you got going on with the crowd.
Exactly, yeah. Like, that's, like, you can be killing it. You can be having a fantastic show, and if somebody comes up and they sound like a bag of cats getting smacked against a tree, it's going to derail the entire show. And a lot of times people who come up who want to sing, they can't sing. Like, they're not necessarily good singers. Like, they just are, they have that liquid confidence in them, and everybody's having a good time, and they want to be a part of that. And the way they want to be a part of it just happens to derail the whole night, But, like, it's hard to recover from whenever somebody comes up and does real bad. Because what are you supposed to do after they get done, Be like, well, y'all give it up for so-and-so just came up and sang Sweet Caroline in the key that I didn't play it. Like,
Yeah.
She nailed the bump, bump, bump part at least. Like...
No, I just take offense to it because I've devoted my entire life to doing this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, I'm playing for 3 hours, but when I'm on the road, as you know, it's like a 14-hour day. Some Saturdays are like 16, 18-hour days. And it's like I've literally left everything else I have going on in my life to earn this 3 hours and to convince the business owner, which that always takes a lot of convincing at first,
right,
to let me play. And you just want to come up here and, like, benefit from all of my hard work and make it about you. Like,
right.
So it's, like, very offensive to me. And I get, like, there's going to be people hearing this and they're going to think, oh, these dudes are taking themselves very seriously. But, like, it's just annoying. Like, you wouldn't like it at your job.
Yeah. Well, your example of the Subway thing, like, I mean, like, I guarantee you there's not a Subway worker that holds their job as sacred as we probably hold ours. But they would still be pissed.
Yeah.
Like, if you walked into a Subway and just were like, hey, can I make a sandwich? Like, they don't even care about that job, and they'd be pissed,
Yeah.
Like, I actually really care about my job, and I've played music and devoted myself to this for 20 plus years. Like, so, like, this means something to me, and, like, I care even more than that because it means something to me. It's not just some, like, weekend hobby, And I know, like, singing and music in general is just a hobby to a lot of people, and they see it that way. But the folks that see it that way, like, it's really hard for them to understand where you're coming from with whenever you're saying, like, no, like, I'm sorry, but you can't just hop up on stage. Like, this is a job. Like, this isn't... I know this is a party for you, but this is a job for me, and I'm getting paid to do it. And a lot of times, like, the venue will be mad if somebody comes up, and I could get in trouble for letting somebody up on stage. And so, like, there's not just me that is potentially going to suffer ramifications from letting somebody up on stage. The venue's insurance is probably going to not be very happy about that if they see that you're letting drunk people on stage with thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And so, like, it's just, there's a lot of things that people just don't consider.
No, and I do have to tell myself that, like you said, most of the time, oh, great. We're about to get behind a train. That's awesome.
Train time.
Anything? I'm going to try to turn around, man. I'm going to be that guy. But yeah, like for them, it's like, hey, my boy like knows 5 chords and he plays Wonderwall and we have a campfire. Like, that's what this is.
Yeah.
You're playing Wonderwall. Don't box me in here, red car. Don't you do it. But yeah, like I have to tell myself they're not musicians, or if they are, it's not like their job. So they're literally just thinking like, this is kind of a glorified version of a campfire. Like,
right,
we're all just hanging out. This guy's playing, but I could be doing it too.
We could probably hang a left on West Jefferson here.
Yeah, probably a good idea. I got to tell you 2 quick stories, and then I have another coming in hot for you. But you know Dylan Street, right?
Yeah.
So we have a friend named Dylan Street he runs a media company, produces a bunch of media for people. And he has posted a few times about people in our hometown asking him for discounts because they're his friend. So that, hey, can you give me a hometown discount? And his whole thing is like, why don't you try that with like Doritos or something? So he actually wrote an email to Nabisco. And this really heartfelt thing like, hey, I love Oreos. I've been a huge fan since I was a little boy. Just so you know, like my wife and I always purchase Oreos every time we're shopping. I've always supported your business. I was just wondering if I could get like 20% off of my next purchase of Oreos. And Nabisco wrote him back. And of course they said no. But like he posted it on his social media, like, why do you do this to me when I'm like some guy you went to high school with?
Right.
But these large companies that are printing money, because you know better. You know they're not going to give you a discount. So then why are you doing that to us? But another story, and I may go to hell for this. I'm going to throw this out there. Season 1, man, we were just kind of learning the ropes. I have decided to let more of my personality come out. So if you get offended, look, I'm sorry, okay? And anything that comes out of my mouth is me. It's not Daniel or any of the guests I have on here, okay? And I did refrain. I'm just going to tell you what a thought I had, okay? But I was in Evansville one night, and there was this girl from Paducah. I didn't know her. But I was like, my name's Corey Evans from Paducah, Kentucky. And her whole group of friends is like pointing at her like, you're from Paducah? She's from Paducah. And they're like, she can sing. So I'm like, oh God, here we go. So she just randomly comes up in the middle of a song and looks at me and goes, what are we going to sing? And I'm like, well, you're not going to sing anything. Like, and you could see her friend group thinking like, as you put it, what a Richard, like, oh, what a terrible guy. I can't believe, And she had a friend, and you can get mad at me if you want, audience. Her friend was hefty. And I gave the Subway example, and it like just crawled all over this friend of hers. And so this individual like said something to the effect of, F him, blah, 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 Subway. And the Lord inside of me stopped me from saying it, but I wanted to be like, well, first of all, what do you know about Subway? Like, if we're talking about Popeyes or something, we'll ask your opinion. But we're talking about Subway, so you just sit down and shut up. But I could, like, that thing in my brain is like, don't do it, don't you do it. And so I did refrain. Yeah. But, like, that just crawled all over those people. Like, how dare you compare this to like Subway,
Oh man, that's hilarious. My wife and I always talk about like there's a lot of things that I don't say, and I should get more credit for those things.
Yes. You will be revered in the kingdom of heaven, brother.
Like, there's so many things. So many things that I would love to just say, and like the only person I ever say those things to are my wife, and like. But it's so many times, because especially like sometimes, like it comes to my head and out of my mouth too quick, but I usually catch it, But like there's so many things whenever you're on the road and like you just see craziness and that just, it sparks imagination and creativity, and usually that creativity comes out in like just straight roasting people.
Yeah. Well, then it's always you against everybody.
Right.
That's what I told my sister one time. We went somewhere. I'm like, it's you and me versus all these people. Like, that's what this is. Like, you can't give them an inch.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is with that though, sometimes is that if you get most of the crowd with you, and then somebody comes in and does that, then it's you and the crowd against that one person who decided they were going to come in and be a jerk. And the funny thing is too, like, even before you get to that point, a lot of times most people want to go out and just have a good time. Like, and so those people are already on your side. It's that one person that wants to come out and be a jerk that is against you, and everybody else is probably for you.
100%. By the way, Daniel and I used to work together. We worked at like the premier music store here in Paducah.
Right.
Allen Music. And one of our bosses, Mr. Boyce Allen, he used to always say, for every one bad customer, there's 10 good ones. And really, I've found it's like, for every one person like that, there's like 100 decent, nice people that are on some level appreciative of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you did just mention your wife. That was my second big thing to ask right off the bat here. We have very similar lives, you know, but I am not married. So I am curious, what is that like? Is it like your biggest source of support and strength, but also does it pose challenges, especially if you're playing like 2 weeks in a row and you're 12 hours away? I mean, like, what kind of dynamic does that create, being married and being a full-time touring musician?
Yeah, that's a really great question because, I've been married now for 6 years. And before that, we were friends for almost 10 years before we ever even dated. And she is by far like the biggest support that I could ever ask for. But I also have to remember that just as much support as I get, I have to give to her. And so for me, what that looks like is I craft my tour schedule to where I'm not gone for more than 2 weeks at a time, typically. Like if I wasn't married, I would probably do things differently. But because I'm married and because I want to support my wife and make sure that I'm there for her, I change my entire approach to how I book and how long I'm out on the road and all of that. And so it's really nice to have someone who understands, because like being gone 2 weeks and then being home 2 weeks, like that wouldn't be enough for some people as a wife, and so like the fact that my wife is okay with that and she understands what I'm doing like means a lot. And she's got a job that she gets to do that is also her dream, so she really understands that. She's owns a dog walking business here in town, and she absolutely loves it. And so just like she couldn't imagine giving that up, she knows I can't imagine giving this up. Like, and I'm not good at anything else. And so
I'm going to say that's not true. You're good at everything I've ever watched you try.
I appreciate it.
But if you want to believe that, okay.
Well, I honestly, it's not that I'm not good at anything else. You're right. It's just that I can't imagine doing anything else and being as happy as I am doing this. Like even for all the crappy parts of it, the 8 or 12 hour drives, the, spending a week sending out emails just to get a couple back, like all of that stuff that kind of sucks. Like, and then having to do all the logistical stuff of putting every single date into my calendar and putting every single date into Bands in Town and Facebook and all of that. Like, it's awful, but it is worth it for the, hour and a half or 3 hours or whatever it is where I get to get on stage and I get to play songs and see how the crowd comes along with me. Like, it makes it all worth it, And so my wife, though, she is super, super supportive, and that's how I try to balance that. Is I want to make sure that I'm out there enough to make a substantial impact while I'm out there, but also not out there so long that I'm disrespecting the sacrifice that my wife is making and being home by herself and taking care of everything on the home front. And so it's definitely a balance.
Your wife is so nice and so sweet too, and I actually see her like around town,
Yeah.
walking the dogs. Yeah,
She tells me all the time. She's like, I saw Corey.
yeah. I think she has a couple clients in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I kind of see her like certain times of the week at the same time of day, kind of thing. So let's kind of go back to the beginning here for you, because the whole time I've known you, you've been a vocalist and a songwriter. But when did that start for you? At what age were you like, I think I want to do this?
I was about 7 or 8 years old whenever I really started. And my dad, he plays guitar, but he plays like G, C, and D. That's it, you know, the country chords. But even though he doesn't play a lot of guitar, he wrote a ton whenever I was growing up. And that's really where my love for music began. It wasn't so much in like vocal prowess or guitar playing. It had everything to do with wanting to be able to tell a story and wanting to be able to say what's on my mind. And so at like 7 or 8 or wherever I was when I started, I just started writing songs right off the bat. Like that's what I thought you did. You know, like I didn't think there was anything special or weird about it even, because that's just what I always saw. You know, my dad would come home, pick up a guitar, make up a new song just about every single day. And so for me, like, I kind of latched on to that, and then everything else was kind of formed around it. And everything that I kind of learned it to help support the songs that I was playing, you know, because like if you're better on guitar and you're a better vocalist, or you're better at putting like the dynamic inside of a piece, then it makes it to where you can tell a more compelling story and do it in a more compelling way. And so that was really my focus, like was just really diving into that side of it. What can I do to support the words? But the words have always been king for me. That's really where I started.
And I mean, I'm just impressed by you in general. So you're a really good friend to me, man. You're one of those people that I really believe if I called you at 2 a.m. and said basically anything, you would help me. Truly believe that about you. You're really good at dealing with people. So like when we worked at the store together, I primarily was a teacher, but you were really good at dealing with customers. But man, you really have just been good at everything I've watched you do. You're a really good vocalist. Your songwriting is incredible.
Thanks, man.
And I am really looking forward to highlighting that at the end of the episode, letting people hear one of your tracks. Your process for writing songs, is it like, okay, so you had mentioned earlier, you talked about going to a meeting, like a co-write in Nashville. Mm-hmm. Typically for you, like, do things just come to you while you're driving? Do you plan times like, hey man, at least once a week, I need to give 5 hours to just sitting alone in a quiet room? When you get an idea on the road, do you leave a voice memo for yourself? Like, what kinds of things go into your songwriting?
Really, all of that. You know, like I'm constantly trying to capture ideas in the moment, because for me personally, my belief on the songwriting side is the initial inspiration can't be duplicated. You know, and so when you first have an idea and you're first inspired by something, it's like, you know, whenever you first see a woman that you know, like, I love this woman, like, and like you may still feel that love, but that initial like spark becomes the flame. But the spark is whenever that's the hottest. You know, it's like that's whenever I try to capture the full form, the idea. And so whether it's in a conversation, or I'm driving down the road listening to you know, a podcast, or whatever it may be, as soon as I get that spark, I try to record like a voice memo. If I have my guitar and I'm in a place where I can sit down, I'll try to like write a first draft of the entire thing, because I can capture that spark first, and then I can go back and refine it, because like it's a lot easier to edit and to work on something that's complete than to try to come back to something that's incomplete and get back into the same mind space. I mean, that's, for me, always been like the best route, because like trying to remember how I felt and what inspired this idea, and I've got 2 lines, and then I gotta try to remember exactly where I was and exactly how I felt and why I thought this, because if you don't have that, then it might feel disjointed. And so, but coming back and seeing an entire form, it makes it so much easier to say, okay, I know exactly what I was thinking, I know what I was going for. Here's some things I can tweak from an objective place that could make this better, instead of having to try to figure it all out again. I always kind of use the metaphor of like working on a vehicle. It's like if somebody has a problem with their vehicle and the mechanic's like, yeah, well, I can work on it, but then you just bring them a tire. It's like, well, that doesn't help me, because I need to see the whole form, and I need to see like how everything is working in conjunction with one another. Like, you can't just bring me, the steering wheel and expect me to know what's going on with the car. Like, sure, it's part of it, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And so that's always been my approach to it. But as far as where I get the inspiration to, like, it can be from conversations, it can be from podcasts, it can be from watching movies, whatever it may be. And I've just been I've been writing for a long time, and I kind of think in that way, because I've done it since I was 7 or 8 years old, and I've written almost 500 songs at this point, and so like everything kind of comes to me in like a lyrical format, even sometimes just talking, it comes out lyrically, and especially whenever I'm trying to tell a story, like it's to me, like that's the ones that mean the most to me. I love telling stories, and I love being able to take a story, and that story becomes a lesson in and of itself without you having to beat somebody over the head with a lesson. And so that's probably where I would focus all that on. Is if that answers. That's probably a very long-winded way to answer that question.
No, and all of that makes sense to me. I sometimes, so, like, I'm working on this album, and I was, like, telling you earlier, I've almost got, like, it's almost like having 2 albums worth of music now. It's just grown into this giant project that I never expected. But I'll be doing my workout in the morning. I do a lot of stairs, and so I'll just be going up and down stairs, and, dude, I get about 30 minutes after I've hit that coffee, and my blood starts flowing, and I start getting the greatest ideas, what I think are the greatest ideas, for like synthesizer parts, and like, oh man, what if I mixed the drum this way, or I could say this line. And so, like, that tends to be one of the most creative times of the day, is like I woke up, and now I've had my caffeine, and like the blood's flowing, and like I start getting all these ideas. But then other times, I just be driving down the road, and I always take little videos of myself, and I give myself a description because I know I'm not going to remember. So I'll be like, hey, I just heard this thing in my head, and, think about, like, I don't know, some guitar player, like, think of the guy from Kill Switch Engage on this song. Like, I give myself very detailed instructions, and then I'll hum, like, woo, 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 like little things. And so I'm like, man, if anyone ever finds these videos, I've actually given a friend of ours, Andrew Allen, very specific instructions about if I die, what to do with all my stuff. So I'm like, this is my passcode. Go into my phone, get rid of anything that could embarrass me or my family, But anyways, so I think it would be weird for me to co-write. And so I got to know, man, like, what is that like? Is it luck of the draw, by the way? Do you, like, when you first moved to Nashville, which you live here again, you're
Right.
living back in Paducah, but did you sign up, like, did you belong to a cooperative, and they're like, okay, next week it's Dennis and Jennifer and Daniel Neihoff, and, like, you just show up with people you don't know? Did you get in a groove with, like, I really like working with Dennis? What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, they have, like, stuff like that, almost like songwriter mixers and stuff like that, which I never really did that. A lot of, I'd say almost all of my experiences with writing were people either heard me or I heard other people, and I was like, I want to write with them, or they said they wanted to write with me. And so that's always a great basis just to begin with, because there's a certain level of respect. Like, that you saw somebody or they saw you, and you want to write together. And so from there, though, it's kind of like dating. It's like you kind of like get in a room and you're like, so, like, what do you like? It's like, oh, I'm into, like pop music, or, oh, cool, man. Like,
it's like Pentecostal dating, though.
Yeah.
Both feet are on the floor and
Right.
your clothes are on.
Exactly. Yeah.
We want to throw
right.
that out there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've never been in anything beyond that. So
It's not been that kind of party.
Probably wouldn't go back and write with that person again if I did. But typically, like that's kind of, you feel each other out a little bit.
Wait, what? You just told me it wasn't like that.
Metaphorically.
Yeah, I gotcha.
It's like, unless it's like it's me and my wife riding, which we've never gotten anything done. But
very classy. Very classy.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, like, sometimes you get in a room and sometimes it just clicks, and like, okay, like this is what we're doing, this is what we're gonna work on. And sometimes, just like with dating, you get in a room and you're like, hey, like, it's nothing against you, and it's nothing, from my side. It's just like, this just doesn't work. Like, I like you as a person. Like, can we still be friends? That sort of a thing. And so
I fear intimacy.
right. But really, like, you do have to find the right fit. And when I first moved to Nashville, I wrote with anybody and everybody. I think I ended up like writing with like 76 people or something in my time there, just because, like, I just wanted to get different perspectives, and to me, like, I love writing all kinds of music, and I love writing, with people who have different life experience than me. And so to me, like, I really enjoyed grabbing all those different perspectives. But towards the end, I felt like I had a clear picture of what I wanted to do, though. And that did kind of change, like, my approach of, like, who do I want to write with, and what kind of songs do I want to write for, like, specific purposes. Because, like, like, if you're in Nashville especially, there are people who are writing for TV, there's people who are writing for commercials, there's people who are writing theme songs, Christmas songs, country songs, pop songs, rock songs, Americana, story, whatever it may be, and so, like, you can write any kind of song with anybody, but some people prefer to write in a certain vein. And so I figured out kind of what vein I liked to write in, and what felt the most authentic to me. Like, that's I think that's a big thing, is like finding what your voice truly is. And so for the co-writing side, from that point forward, became like, is this something I want to be able to put on a project? Is this something that is just going to be writing for this other person, writing songs that they can put on a project? And it became more of like a figuring out what I was actually doing, instead of just doing anything. But I loved co-writing, and one of the things I really love about co-writing is you can get in a room with somebody and you can knock out a song in 3 hours or less. Sometimes you can get a couple songs done. And sometimes you hit these roadblocks whenever you're writing by yourself, to where, like, you get too much in your own head and you start thinking, like, is this good or not? Like, and having that sounding board where somebody is like, dude, that's perfect. Like, that fits perfectly. Or I don't think that's it, but maybe this is. It gets you over that roadblock so quick, and you can be so much more productive. But yeah, I loved co-writing. I haven't done as much here lately because I've been writing mostly, like, very specific, like, storyteller type songs, and for me, like, that's the kind of vein that I've taken, that, like, I love writing those songs, and not everybody does, like the song that we were talking about before we started rolling, the Civil War Letter song. Like, that would have probably been a difficult song to bring to a co-write, because you got to find somebody who, for one, like understands the story that you're trying to tell and doesn't want to pervert the story. You got to find somebody who wants to write a song about the Civil War, which can be kind of a contentious subject to begin with,
especially around here.
Yeah,
yeah, for real.
And you got to find somebody who like wants to write that genre, and like doesn't want to try to turn that song into some sort of radio hit, because it's not a radio hit. Like, and I'm fine with that. I want it to tell the story and tell it well. And if it doesn't hit the top 20, that doesn't matter to me, because I want the people to hear it to understand what the message is, more so than I want the masses to hear it. And so like that would have been a tough co-write though, because that's a lot to ask of somebody else. But like a kind of the standard love songs and stuff like that, that's easy stuff in co-writes, because everybody has shared experience in that.
And by the way, we're literally about to pass a Confederate statue as we're talking about our area being, I mean, literally this area embodies your song. I don't want to give too much away about your song, because we're going to play it at the end of the episode. But this was one of the most divided, if not the most divided parts of the entire country.
Yeah.
Like Western Kentucky. I found out, I didn't know this until like 6 months ago, where I live is right in the middle of like where the Union Fort was in Paducah. And Nathan Bedford Forrest, who went on to found the KKK, he led like an attack of Confederate soldiers on the Union Fort. And my apartment is like right in the middle of where the fort was. In fact, you know where Cafe de Fe was?
Yeah.
Apparently that building is still standing from the 1860s. And that's the only building in the neighborhood that's left that I guess survived the 1937 flood. And
that's crazy.
I know, and it's on Wikipedia. If you look it up, like that building, I'm like, wait, that's just like a block away from my apartment. How's no one ever told me this?
Yeah. Well, and like, it's wild, man. I wrote that song, and then Crittenden County, a couple counties over, my wife found an article about two brothers buried up in Crittenden County. They were the Crittenden brothers, and like I kind of wrote their story before I ever even knew who they were. They're buried next to each other in the cemetery, and fought on opposite sides of the Civil War, but it's like it was really like this was their story, and it kind of was like a full circle moment. Like I knew it was a true story, but I didn't have anybody in mind when I wrote the song, and so to know that was so close to home there, like really just blew my mind.
And I have so many questions, man. So I will say, if you guys haven't noticed, we had an episode like this in season 1 with Josh Stewart, who pitched in the major leagues. Well, Josh and I had already been friends for a long time, so it was very easy conversation. Obviously, Daniel and I know each other, so who knows? This may go another 10 minutes. It may go another 45. I don't know, but feel free to just hang out with us and listen as long as you want. I'm fascinated about the dynamic inside those writer rooms. So musicians can be some of the goofiest people. We're not throwing shade. I mean, that's us. We're talking about ourselves here. But did you get in the room with somebody who's like, they got to light like their scented candles, and they're like, I need the lighting, blah, 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 blah. And basically like a super hippified, like, I'll use the phrase white woman, but that could be a 50-year-old man. Did you get in those environments where they were like, we got to set the mood? Were there people who were all business? Hey, man, we got 3 hours. I'm trying to pitch this to Jake Owen. Mm-hmm. So no BS. Let's get down to it. Jake wants us to mention trucks and a dog. And if we can work Hank Williams' name in here somewhere, like, I mean, is it all over the place? Do you have specific stories? Like, yeah, Jennifer was a hippie. Like,
well, like, it is kind of all over the place. I never had like that level of, over the top sort of like set the atmosphere for the music sort of a thing. If anything, I'd say it almost lended itself more on the clinical side, because Nashville is such, like, songwriting is business in Nashville so much. And so a lot of people, they would really be more on the side of, like, let's get in a room, let's get this done, let's work this out. A lot of people, and I get why they would say it, but it also kind of drove me a little crazy. They'd get in a room, and the first thing they'd say is like, all right, let's write a hit, and I was just like, ugh. It was like, that always felt like a little, like, I don't know, felt like a little sticky. It felt a little dirty to me, because it's like, that wasn't really what I was there for. Like, I wanted, I would have loved to have had, like, Jake Owen or whoever the biggest country star, or whoever the biggest star period was, take one of my songs, and then I get a bunch of money in the mail. Like, that would have been great.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, who wouldn't want that? But I also didn't want to do it at the sacrifice of my integrity by writing songs about girls shaking their butts on the backs of trucks, because that's not true to me. Like, that's not what I'm all about. Like, I'm all about trying to tell stories that impact people's lives, and tell them in a way that's poignant, and in a way that, like, can really make somebody change the way that they think about something, And now if somebody took a song that I wrote that was like that, and it became a hit, like, that would be the best of both worlds. But I wasn't gonna go in there and be like, let's write a hit, That just didn't really feel good to me. I wanted to write songs that I thought were good. Like, that's what I was worried about more than anything. Is I want to write a song that I can be proud of. And so when people would come in and say that would just kind of irk me a little bit. But most of the time, that was kind of the attitude of most songwriters, I feel like, is we got a 3-hour block. Typically we would book it in like 3-hour blocks, 2 or 3 times a day. I was doing like different sessions with different people that I'd met, and we'd sit, we talk for a little bit. Most of them were friends, or at least we became friends through this process, because you kind of get to know each other a little bit, and get to know what somebody's all about. And after we talked for a little bit, we'd say, okay, like, what are we going to write about? Some people would have, like, what they'd call hook books, where they would write down all these different hooks of, like, things that they thought, like, this would be a good hook for a song, and by hook, what I mean by that is, like, when you're listening to a song, and at the end of the chorus, like, there's that one line that kind of wraps it all up, and you're like, oh, dang, like, that was so cool. That's like the hook, it, like, pulls you in, it reels you in. So people would have some of those, they'd start reading them off, and one of them would kind of hit us, and we'd say, okay, like, let's do that. Or more times than not, it was from the conversation that we just had. Like, we would be talking, and then through that conversation, we would say, you know what, like, since we're already kind of talking about this, why don't we write about it? But yeah, I'd say it lent more towards the business, like, clinical side almost, even to the conversational side, but never so much to the, like, let's create a atmosphere of, like, creativity. So
I got you.
That's probably where it lent itself the most.
Did you? Oh man, I'm such a dummy. So we may or may not be filming this long before it's going to air. It may or may not be Quilt Week in Paducah, which may or may not mean a lot of 63-year-old women walking down one-way streets. Go ahead, sister. Go ahead. We appreciate you. Walk across. And I'm a dummy and just drove right into the thick of the festivities. Is that your wife? That is not your wife. Is that your wife?
It is
my
my
wife.
wife.
Your wife.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So hopefully I don't run over somebody. Now I am curious, this may not have happened to you, but are there situations where there's like a guy He was like, Walker Hayes' guy. Like, Walker's got his guys he likes to use. Yes, sir, it is better if you're not in the middle of the road. Thank you.
Quilt week.
Quilt week, yeah. I wasn't so much concerned with him, but he was holding a little dog. The only thing that happened to the dog.
That's fair.
But does, like, Walker have his guys, like, you know, like, Timmy and Jonathan are, like, Walker's guys. They always get, like, 6 tracks on his albums. Like, the people show up and they're like, hey, listen, Walker's theme for the new tour is, you know, like, there's that one Luke Bryan album that's, like, Tan Lines and whatever, Tall Boys, or I don't know. But is there something like that? Like, Tall Boys and Tan Lines is the theme. So we're looking for a few, like, Kenny Chesney beach party vibe songs. We want something about he inherited his great-grandfather's old pickup truck. We need a few of those on this album.
Yeah.
And, like, Timmy and Jonathan show up and they're like, today we're doing the Tall Boy song. We got about 4 hours. We got to pitch this to the label tomorrow. And I need y'all's help. What rhymes with Tall Boy?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you get those?
There was some similar situations to that. So, like, I had written a couple songs with this girl who she had a pub deal with one of the local publishing companies there, and we had written one that was like one that we had just randomly written that we pitched to Luke Bryan, or not to Luke Bryan, to Luke Combs. But the next time we got together, she knew, she was like, hey, like, Reba is doing a new album. And, like, we're going to be pitching songs to Reba. Like, is there, like, something that we can write about that would be a good, like, good song for her? And so I actually was like, well, you know, why not, like, just look up her history a little bit and, like, kind of try to hack it to where we can find out kind of what her upbringing was, and so we did do that. We went and we kind of looked up, like, what her home life was as a child, and we found out that she, like, lived on a farm and you know, like, grew up driving trucks and all this stuff. And so I was like, why don't we write a song about her and her dad, like, him teaching her how to drive inside the old Silverado. And so that's what we ended up doing, was trying to write a song specifically about, like, a little girl learning to drive from daddy's lap, you know, sort of a thing. And it didn't work. She didn't take the song, but like, there was definitely a little bit of that, like, gamesmanship almost, of, like, it's like, well, like, I still want to write a song as a story. I still want to write a song that evokes emotion. But yeah, like, we could lean that towards, you know, whoever we're pitching it to. And so we did do that. I never had, like, you know, we got to write a song about Tall Boys. And I kind of had a reputation for being, like, the folksy nostalgia writer, for a lot of people, because I was pretty good at telling stories, and there was one song in particular called I See Memories that I had written that people kind of knew me for around, like, the songwriting circles and the songwriters rounds. And so, like, that became, like, when someone wanted to write, like, a story driven nostalgia song, then they would probably holler at me and be like, hey, can we write a song about my grandma's rocking chair? Or another guy was like, can we write a song about, like, Dad's saddle? And, like, you know, it became, like, kind of the thing, and which was funny, you know, because, like, I was kind of surprised that, like, that was the reputation that I had. But it didn't really bother me, because I loved writing those types of songs and I loved telling those stories. But that was more probably what I got than anything. But we definitely tried to game it a little bit with the Reba thing. Like, that was 100%, like, it's like, let's see what we can find out about her and read her bio and try to write a song that fit that bio a little bit.
I think she likes Fritos, because if I'm remembering this right, she definitely did, like, a chip commercial in the 90s. And then she did, like, this big routine where I'm really pulling. This is an early childhood memory, but they were, like, holding her up in one of those, like, cheerleader type triangle things. Uh-huh. And she was like, I know what I like Fritos. Like, I'm pretty sure it was because I first thought it was Doritos, and I'm like, that doesn't work. She wouldn't have said, I know what I like Doritos. No, I think it was Fritos.
That's funny.
Or Pringles, maybe, but anyways, I think it was Fritos. We should look that up later.
I don't know, though, because, like, I always think about, like, all those commercials with Tom Brady, like, in Subway commercials, and I'm like, I know that dude doesn't eat bread. Like, that dude has never gotten Subway in his life. Like, he has a personal chef.
There's literally one of them where they say that. Like, there's, like, he's hearing the voice in the sky, and he's like, but Tom, you don't even eat bread. And I think he was like, but if I did, I know where I would go. Yeah. I would wake up on my stacks of money and I would say, I need an Italian BMT. And I would come right here. Yeah. I love, and like the Patrick Mahomes, like foot-long cookie. Like, you know what, I'm gearing up for the Super Bowl. I'm going to get a foot-long cookie at Subway. And what's crazy is it obviously works. There are people who are like, man, Pat eats that cookie? Okay.
I don't think it takes much convincing for somebody to want a foot-long chocolate chip cookie,
fair.
though.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's talk about your EP.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you say the title.
It's called Appalachian Cry.
Okay. Because that's what I tell people, Appalachian Cry. But in the song, you say, and that's why the Appalachians cry.
Right, yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that I'm not saying it wrong.
No, you're good. So, and that is a good distinction there, because, like, in the song, I do say Appalachian. Traditionally, inside of Appalachia, it is Appalachian, at least in eastern Kentucky. If you get up into, like, the Pennsylvania area, there are places that actually pronounce it like Appalachia, and there's other areas of the country that that have never been to the Appalachians, and they typically say Appalachia. So there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different folks have identified it, and there's just kind of a little bit of a rub for some folks if you say it the wrong way. So the reason I said it like that in the song is because most of my listeners were going to be people who aren't from Appalachia, you know, and but whenever I am talking about it, I always try to make sure that I'm talking about it in that reverence of the way that they would say it inside of the area, which would be Appalachia.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So your EP, is that currently the thing that people could consume? Like, they could download that or go to any streaming service? Do you have any other projects besides Appalachian Cry?
So, yeah, the only project that you can find on Spotify and Apple Music and all that is Appalachian Cry. If you come to a live show, I do have a exclusive to live shows album, and it's live from the Clemens, which I did that at the Clemens Fine Arts Center, and it was during COVID. They did a PBS taping up there, and so it's all acoustic, and it's you know, just me and a guitar. That's it. Which is going to be kind of similar to what the next album's going to be, which I'm hoping to try to release this year. But you know, that's kind of the only other project that you can grab, and that's, like I said, exclusively at live shows. And it probably won't be released anywhere because of that. I like being able to have something for the folks that come out and support me. Like, I love having something that just they have. You know, I think that's a good gift to people who care about my music, is to give them an opportunity to have something that nobody else is going to have. But you know, if you really wanted it and you wanted to shoot me a message or something, and like you can't make it to a live show, then you know, I'd try to work something out for you. But I just love the idea of being able to have something exclusive for those folks.
Yeah, you need to program songs for shut-ins.
That's right.
People can write in, you know, and you give them a prize, tell them to take a step of faith.
Yeah.
Send you $20, and you'll get the disc, and he'll personally pray on the disc too before he sends it to you. Way off topic, dude. I have such a fascination with 80s and early 90s televangelists. I love it. And of course I don't. I hate it. But it's the most like incredible watch. The GOAT is a man named Robert Tilton. You must, when we're finished today, look up Robert Tilton videos, because he would do that.
Yeah.
People would send him money. He would send like his prayer catalog or whatever to him, and he would have like, I think he even had like his handprints on the thing, and he's like, I've put my hands right here and I've prayed. And so after you send me your $25 membership fee or whatever, you put your hand right there too. And it's obviously terrible, but you kind of have to respect the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Like if you have no soul.
Yeah, if you look at it as performance art, then like, man, these people are committed to their role.
He's the GOAT, and he's still doing it. He's like 78, bro.
That's crazy.
He's still doing it. He relocated because he got kicked out of Texas, basically. So he like went to Florida and like started back up again.
That is like, where you go when you get kicked out of Texas.
Yeah.
Like you go to Florida.
Like, oh, apparently, yeah, I will. Yeah. Well, maybe not get onto that. But so your EP. We're going to play a track here at the end of our discussion. We're going to do Civil War Letter. Letter or letters?
Letters. Yeah.
Letters. Okay. And I'm trying not to give too much away about the song, by the way, because I know there's multiple letters in the song. I'm not going to say much more because I want you guys to hear it. But Daniel is an amazing songwriter. So we're going to play this track off of Appalachian Cry, but you definitely should look his music up, listen to it, and I am going to tell you, this is for all the listeners, if you have an Apple product, purchase his EP off of the iTunes store, because he's actually going to make money off of that. If you're just streaming it, I can tell you right now, you stream it on Spotify, they're going to ask Daniel to send him money. He's not making anything on that. Just for all of you, like when we bring musical guests on, don't go to Spotify unless you have no other choice. You should catch one of his shows, by the way, which you post all of this on your website, correct?
Right, yeah. And, you know, even if you can't afford to purchase an album, you can go to my website and you can sign up for my newsletter. And I greatly appreciate that, too, because I want to be able to share my music with you. And I want to be able to share where I'm going to be because I travel. I'm going to be everywhere from, Florida, Virginia, Texas, California this year. And I want to be able to share my music with people who want to hear it and people who I think would appreciate those stories and these songs. And so it doesn't cost you anything to sign up for my newsletter either. And I would love to just take you along for the journey.
So when you're looking up Daniel online, Neihoff, you want to spell it for the people?
Yeah, it's Daniel Neihoff. That's Neihoff. I always tell people I before E except after me. So
nice. And those other exceptions.
That's right. And those other exceptions. That's right.
Oh man, real quick story. So I had a teacher in high school who said he went to like KFC or something and they had like 3-piece dinner, $8 or whatever on the billboard, but they had spelled piece P-E-I-C-E. And so he said he went in and he told the dude behind the counter, he's like, hey, by the way, it's I before E except after C. And the guy's like, what? And he goes, you misspelled piece on the sign. It's I before E except after C, other than situations like way and nay, whatever, the whole thing. And so he said the next day he came back and they just had 3 PC dinner. So he's like, I just imagine that guy up there, like he's got that long thing they have, like, and he was like, okay, what did that guy say again? I can't remember. What was the rule? So he just put like 3 PC dinner, It's amazing.
Whatever works,
Well, brother, you, no exaggeration, you're one of the best songwriters. Not just that, like, I know personally, just like period. I went back and re-listened to your EP this morning to prepare, and I'm just blown away by some of the songwriting. It really is that good. And the thing about you, my favorite thing about you is the kind of human being you are. You're a thoroughly good person. You're a really good friend. You're a brilliant man. You're one of the smartest people I've ever met. but you're really, really good at what you do. So people should catch a live show if they can. Definitely download the EP if you're able to. If not, go ahead and stream it. That's cool, because you believe in the music and the points that you're making too. So if people aren't able to afford it, obviously you just want the message to get out there. But definitely download Appalachian Cry by Daniel Neihoff if you are able to. Make sure you check out his website. Last thing, what are you most looking forward to in the near future?
Man, first thing that comes to mind is I am headed down to Texas, and I'm going to be playing a string of shows down there, and specifically one show is the Kerrville Folk Festival. It is one of the longest running festivals in the nation, and I won their songwriting competition back in 2019, and it really helped me launch my EP. It helped me really have the confidence, and it made me feel like I can actually do this and people are going to appreciate it. And so it meant a lot to me for so many reasons, and I'm going to be playing that festival as an artist this year, and I'm so excited to be able to go and play that festival. This year I've got a bunch of different festivals that I'm playing as well, up in Colorado, the Grand Mesa Songwriters Festival, and out in California I'm supposed to be playing the Reading Roots Revival. But I think for me, like, because of my personal connection, I am so excited for the opportunity to play at the Kerrville Folk Festival. And I'm really excited to be able to get some new music out there, because I haven't been able to release any new music since that EP. And I've got so many songs and so many stories to tell. And I'm so excited to be able to share those stories and share those songs with people.
Dude, I'm excited to hear the new project when it comes out. And I'm excited to hear stories from the tour. Maybe at the end of the year we can reconvene and swap war stories. And hopefully I have stuff for you to listen to too. So
sounds good, man. I can't wait. Yeah.
Well, dude, be careful out there. You know it's a jungle. And I really appreciate you coming on today, man. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man.
He penned a letter back in 1862, when battle lines cut through the north and south. It said, "Dear mother, I'm dreaming of the day that I get to make my way back to that house. You know I miss you, and I miss father too, but there's somebody else I can't leave out. So if you talk to brother, tell him that I love him, although I think he chose the wrong side. But I won't hold that against him. I hope God is with him, and I pray we both make it home alive." And miles away there was another soldier like him, but in a different colored uniform. By lantern light he wrote his own letter on a tiny piece of paper, slightly torn. It said, "Dear father, do you recall the time that I didn't have to fight in this damned war? And if you talk to brother, tell him that I love him, although I think he chose the wrong side. But I won't hold that against him. I hope God is with him, and I pray we both make it home alive." it don't matter who they're fighting for. They're just praying that they both survive this war. If they make it home, there won't be battle lines. They'll greet each other, arms open wide, and that's why they ride. If you talk to brother, tell him that I love him, although I think he chose the wrong side. But I won't hold that against him. I hope God is with him, and I pray we both make it home alive. They're just praying that they make it home alive.
All right, guys. Well, as I'm sure was evident, and as I stated at the top of the episode, Daniel is a great guy. He's a lot of fun, very easy to talk to, and extremely, extremely talented. If you have listened this far in the episode and you just heard his song, you realize he's a very talented guy. So, Daniel, thank you for sharing your talent with the world. Thank you for being my friend, and thank you for coming on the pod today. Now, let me quickly tell you about next week. Next week, we're going to be diving in more into kind of the mission statement of this tour that I'm on. And we're going to have two guests. I'm going to be talking to Miss Laura Roberts of Starfish Orphan Ministry. And I'm going to be talking to Mr. Tom Harness, who is a veteran. He was in the Army several years ago, but since he has gotten out of the Army, he's done a ton of work to benefit veterans. And one of the organizations he partners with is the Southern Illinois Community Foundation. Now, the reason we're having Miss Laura and we're having Tom on next week is those are two of the people we're going to be partnering with throughout the entirety of this tour. So we're going to be raising money for veterans in a lot of different ways, and I'll tell you more about that next week. But we are also, and when I say we, me and Toby, who edits these podcasts, we are going to be helping to host something called Empower Paducah. And Empower Paducah is going to be a monthly concert at Paducah Beer Works the last Monday of the month, starting in July. We will typically have two different artists play. There will be a $10 cover charge, and then we will divide that money half and half and give half to area children, and we will be doing that via Starfish Orphan Ministry, and the other half to area veterans, and we will be doing that via the Southern Illinois Community Foundation. So we're going to talk about that a little more in depth next week. I will be talking to Miss Laura. I will be talking to Tom. And then I'll spend a little bit of time at the end of the episode next week kind of talking about my motivations for all of this and give you a little bit more information about what I'm trying to achieve throughout this tour, throughout this season of the podcast, and likely probably all the way through next year. A lot of patriotic sentiment. A lot of this has to do with wanting to truly live out the highest ideals of our nation and to truly be the American dream and make the American dream accessible to everyone. So that's what is motivating me. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week, and I'll introduce you to Miss Laura and to Tom. Before I sign off, just a reminder, again, come out to Big Daddy's tonight. Come to Buckner on Sunday to Backroads Bar from 3 to 6. And let me tell you about our sponsor. It's Metropolis Music and Media. So Toby, one of my best friends, one of my best buds who's editing all of this, that is his company. And, you know, everything I said last season is still true this season. He is still tremendous at everything he's doing. I would assume he keeps getting better and better because he's always working and always serving and always knocking it out of the park. So if you know of anyone who needs a sound consultation or any type of media produced for them or any type of consultation, maybe they want to start their own podcasts, maybe they want to record something, they need a video made. Even if Toby is maybe not right for every media thing that you need, he will help you to at least get pointed in the right direction. But he offers so many different services, and he does such a great job at all of it. I would say if you have a media need at all, video work, pictures, any type of sound work you need done, if you need an installation of a sound system at your church, contact Metropolis Music and Media. All right, guys. Well, like I said, I'm amped up on caffeine. This is day 7 of my tour, and I am just a different guy when I'm on tour. I'm a better version of myself, and it's because I really do love people. And I really love being in front of people and playing music, but man, I love just a lot of the interactions I'm having. I love talking to the people at the drive-thru window and the girl who hands me my coffee and the guy at the Casey's General Store. It's America, man. It's America. I love driving around this country's heartland and getting to hang out with you guys and trying to bring you a high energy show. I'm excited about the album I'm working on. We're actually going to release an EP version first and then a full album towards the end of the year. And I'm just excited about all of it. So I appreciate all of you. Make sure you're following me on all the socials. Make sure you tune in next week to Not a Rockstar. And make sure if you are able, you come out this weekend. So guys, even though I am not a rock star, thanks to all of you, I live a rock and roll life. I'll see you guys next week.